and I am so grateful to the Prime Student Organization and to Jennifer Coupland for her wonderful advising, and also to Timmy, who has been the moderator of the branding panel for many years. I'm very thankful that so many of the industry panelists could be here as well, and I'm looking forward to an evening. And Julia and the rest of the Prime leadership team, thank you for arranging a wonderful event. So I'm going to turn it over and get out of the way.
Thank you, Meg, and a big shout out to the rest of the Prime Executive Board and Ad PR Club, and of course, Timmy and Professor Coupland for making this event possible. Welcome everyone to the 7th annual Penn State Prime Branding Panel. And for those of you unfamiliar with Prime, it is a marketing org here on campus that strives to give students experiences that you can't necessarily get in a classroom in the brand management and marketing advertising fields. This event is one of the many events we host yearly, and I'm so excited today has finally come. Now I'm going to pass it off to Helena, who will speak a little bit more about Ad PR Club.
Hi, everyone. My name is Helena, and I'm the president of Ad PR Club. We're the Advertising and Public Relations Club here on campus. I'm super excited for this event. It's such a great opportunity for students. And I'd like to give a huge thank you to the Prime organization and our great hosts, and as well as my executive board. Thank you for joining us, all of the panelists, and I'm excited to get started.
Okay, you're all mine. Here we go. It's our 7th Forging a Career in Branding, which is pretty remarkable, and really can't thank enough the Prime folks and Helena's crew. But Julia as the president, and Megan as the vice president, and Haley from professional development, and Lauren as secretary, and Rachel for social, and Bree, who I bothered continuously for PR, and Marilisa Capano. They just did a wonderful job. But I really couldn't do it without my partner in crime, and that's Jen. And Meg, thank you for allowing me to work with Jen, and for Erin to help out also. So let me just tell you what's going to go on tonight for a little bit, right? The panelists are going to be answering some questions I put together, and some of them wanted to see them in advance, and that's not my DNA, because that doesn't happen in real world in business per se. So we're going to put them to the shore of how it works in business, and we've got some questions to ask. And I think there are going to be some interesting questions. I'm not looking for answers from their companies, but answers from them, how they feel. And to the panelists, interactive. I might ask a specific individual for a question. However, Christina and Laura and Angel and the rest, if you want to jump in afterwards, please do so. That's how the interactivity works. And then afterwards, there'll be breakout rooms, as Julia quite explained, to make that happen. But before that, let's just go real quick. Julia, let you run through the slides. So all the students, for which, by the way, there are over 350 students that registered tonight. That's incredible. We've never had that number, and that's just really terrific. So to the panelists, you got a lot of eyeballs watching you. So let's start with Christina.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. My name is Christina Clausen. I am currently at the National Hockey League, Senior Manager of U.S. Partnerships. I graduated from Penn State in 2014, also a major in marketing. When I was in school, I interned in the college athletics department, focusing on baseball, basketball, and football, of course. Really happy about a record right now, 3-0, got to keep it rolling. And then after school, I went into the agency world, managed a lot of sports and entertainment partnerships, specifically for AT&T and DirecTV. Oversaw college football national championship partnership, Final Four, worked a lot with ESPN and the NCAA, and then also transitioned to their DirecTV's NFL business as well. And then moving over to the league side, I've been here for a little over 3 years now, managed partners like Apple, Enterprise, Great Clips, Ticketmaster, Verizon, among a few others. So it's exciting to see it from a different point of view, from the property perspective. Grew up a hockey fan. I'm a Flyers fan, although I'm probably not supposed to say that. So I'm sure I have a lot of friends and enemies in the room right now. And then some fun facts about Penn State. I was a Thon 2014 dancer. And if anybody plays any intramural sports, you know that's a big feat to win a championship. So I was a soccer champion and I got a t-shirt.
Cool. Okay. Laura, you're up.
Hi, everybody. I'm really happy to be here tonight. As you can see, I'm a director of marketing operations and medical campaigns for North America at Draeger, and Draeger is a global leader in medical and safety technology. I got my BS in marketing at Penn State, and I actually went back and got my MBA at Penn State Great Valley while I was working full time. I was in PSMA and Delta Sigma Pi. I don't know if it's there anymore, business fraternity while I was there. And I've worked in a variety of industries in addition to the healthcare space. So I've been in publications and in media, and I was a consultant for 11 years under my own company. So lots of different industries, lots of different experiences to share. And while I was at Penn State, fun fact, I was a little sister at a triangle fraternity. I met my husband there. So we've been married 29 years. But both of my kids are currently at Pitt. So they don't take my marketing advice. They're also in the sciences. I have one that's in pharmacy and one that's in biology. So it's nice to speak to some like-minded students tonight.
Thank you, Laura. Angel?
Hey, good evening, everyone. Angel Grant. I'm a director of programmatic media at L'Oreal. So I've been there a little over a year now, which is really exciting. For those that aren't familiar with programmatic, it's essentially automated buying and bidding of ad placements, like banner ads, even YouTube, things like that. And so I oversee a team that does that for two divisions within L'Oreal, specifically professional hair care and then medical dermatology brands, some of which I'm sure you're familiar with. CeraVe is one that comes to mind, and others as well. So I graduated with a bachelor's in marketing at Penn State. I also minored in advertising, media studies specifically. So nice little shout out to the College of Communications as well. I was president of NHBA, National Hispanic Business Association, during my time in my senior year. I was a lot of different roles during my time at Penn State and had a great experience doing that. And I previously worked for other companies, LG Electronics. I was there for about 4 years in a bunch of different capacities, but essentially mainly focused on digital marketing, which included paid ad placements, but also organic content, website optimization, things of that nature. And then I spent the bulk of my career prior to that at different media ad agencies, most of the major holding companies, doing advertising campaigns, paid media campaigns, specifically in digital media, specifically for brands like Schick and Playtex, as well as Energizer, Tylenol, USAA, and Michelin, and a number of others. One thing I'm really proud about, similar to other members here, I actually had the chance to be a Thon dancer in 2007. So that was a really amazing experience. I know earlier the folks were talking about kind of standing in the stadium. For those that get the opportunity to do that, for me, standing in the Thon room is just like, in the Bryce Jordan Center was just like, mind blowing. So that was really a great opportunity. And, definitely recommend that for any of you who get to do that. Little, favorite thing for me, eats at Penn State, Gumby's Pizza, Pokey Sticks, miss those so much. Can't wait to get back there. And then I definitely hit the orange flavored chicken really hard at Panda Express in the hub. Don't even know if it's still there, but that brings back memories for sure. So glad to be here and look forward to the panel tonight.
Thank you. Max.
Hey everybody, my name is Max Litke. I graduated from Smeal in 2017. I currently lead talent partnerships at a talent management agency. I represent a variety of different athletes, traditional celebrities, high-level digital creators as well. Prior to my role now, I was at WME, which is a talent agency, where I worked with mainly just professional athletes managing their day-to-day partnerships. So people like Odell Beckham, Venus and Serena Williams, Colin Kaepernick, Victor Cruz, Victor Oladipo, a variety of different folks. And yeah, funny enough, I got connected with Timmy. Timmy and I work together. I represent Carly Lloyd of the U.S. Women's National Team, and Timmy and I have a connection there. There's a partnership that involves the two of us, and he may joke that he doesn't give out the questions in advance, but sometimes you can muscle a little bit in the professional setting.
Okay. Bjorn.
Hey everyone, Max. I worked really closely with Carly Lloyd too, so we should chat afterward. I got her.
Oh, that's funny.
She was the first woman athlete to ever be featured in a beer commercial. Was super proud of that, and she's fun. But yeah, hello everybody. I'm Bjorn Trowery. I lead brand communications and PR at Meta. I graduated from Penn State in 2008. Feels like forever ago. Before that, I was at Heineken, where I was their head of external communications. And then before that was at Toys R Us and was a spokesperson, and can probably tell you more about Ninja Turtles and Frozen than you probably would like to know. Yeah, I'm really proud of the work that we're doing here. Really proud to be supporting and helping out everything from a Penn State perspective. Tons of memories there, too many to list, but very, very excited to be here.
And Peter.
Hi, everyone. I'm Peter Walkowski, and I lead onboard products, partnerships, and in-flight entertainment at United. And what that basically means is whenever you fly United, the things that you see, touch, experience on board come from my team. So it's a really fun space to work in. I've been at United for over 7 years now in a variety of roles, from product to marketing, research, and insights, and now leading the product team. It's been a fun time. I got my MBA in marketing and finance at Penn State in 2013. For those of you who joined last year's panel discussion, one of my good friends and close teammates, Angelo Fields, was part of last year's panel. So I'm glad to be here this year. So thank you for the invitation. Before United Airlines, I worked at Ford Motor Company for a few years as a brand marketing manager for in-vehicle technology. It's awesome to see kind of the similarities between automotive and airline as kind of the experiences are converging. Fun fact about me, for those of you still in State College, hands down, the best pancakes ever are at the original waffle shop on North Atherton. I've been trying to chase that high since then, but nobody can beat Waffle Shop.
Awesome. Okay, here we go. So again, I have some questions, and then we'll get it going. So pivot seems to be the new word in 2022, right? So when something happens to a company that catches the consumer or the public off guard, like Peloton's QA issues or recall, or folks going back to the gym, or as recent as yesterday where the chief marketing officer resigned from Peloton, or the Boston Celtics head coach, Ime Udoka, who got caught in an extramarital affair because he violated company policy, or even Meta privacy policies. How do you, or how would you pivot to maintain your brand equity and position in the marketplace? And Max, I'm going to start with you.
I was gonna say that one might be tough for me coming from the talent side, but yeah, I mean, I think pivot from a talent perspective, right? Because I need to kind of look at it from the like the talent eyes, right, and how they kind of fit into a brand's image, vision, direction. So I think I've been part of change, right? Like I can tell you that when it comes to pivot, I guess I can kind of focus on leadership change, right? So like, for example, Carly Lloyd, one of the athletes I work with, we're in a 2-year deal with Charlotte's Web, or CBD Medic, you might know. It's a CBD company. Gronk, Rob Gronkowski, and Carly Lloyd are the only 2 athletes that ever has been part of the deal. And structured change from year 1 to year 2, where year 1, there was a lot of focus on how we make this partnership amazing. Carly was in the limelight. We were doing things kind of full speed. The company kind of restructured. People that we initially did the deal with had left. the brand's vision and direction had changed. So we kind of had to almost like sit on the back burner and then kind of in our own way, be a bit more proactive and be the ones kind of putting our fists on the table, saying we want to do things, like let's generate ideas and kind of stirring the pot. It came at a good time with Carly's year one being at the end of her playing career, and then year two playing in retirement. So being able to feed off and give ideas about that kind of refocus for her and her lifestyle.
Good, thank you. Angel, how would you answer that?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the ways I've seen it at a few different companies and areas that I really agree with is you really need to lean in on your consumer insights, really be led by the audiences that you're either looking to grow, share within, or specifically new audiences, new demographics, or new segments that you're really interested in penetrating with your messaging, and understand what resonates with them best. So I think the pivot in with that mindset is more around what are you pivoting to, and ensuring that whatever either platform from a messaging standpoint, be it positioning amongst your competitive set as a brand, or even just kind of reevaluating. I work for L'Oreal, a company that's been around for hundreds of years, and how do you continue to reinvent yourself and what do you pivot to? I think it really does. I've seen it work really well in being grounded in your consumer insights and understanding what you're pivoting to, what audience are you catering to with your messaging.
That's really good, because I have a question here that was farther down, but I can actually go right into it and ask Peter. Can you give a real compelling example of how consumer insight has transformed your brand, bouncing off what Bjorn just talked about? Bouncing off what Angel just talked about?
Yeah, for sure. At United, we've gone under a tremendous transformation the past few years, in the past year. With the pandemic, we certainly had to pivot pretty dramatically, and that was to stay in business, survive the pandemic, and make sure that we had a company on the other side. Throughout that, we used customer insights and customer data to see, what do customers care about? How are they thinking about the pandemic? And then coming out of it, how are they thinking about travel? And from this, we've seen, green shoots of people coming back to travel in full force. And it was the right time to kind of introduce a new brand positioning, introduce a new brand campaign, and ultimately reinvest kind of a lot back into the customer experience once people are starting to travel again. And so the interesting thing about our new brand campaign, it's, oftentimes you can think about things demographically. So, what are the demographics of people who are into United Airlines? But one of the things that we've done, kind of pivoted towards, is taking a look at more, what are the common kind of psychographic elements between kind of trailblazers and really kind of experience seekers, and how do those mindsets compare throughout various demographics and ages?
Good. Kind of leads to a market research question, Laura, for you, right? How do you use market research to maximize brand awareness, satisfaction, or anything else? And what are your metrics? How do you measure it? And do you get customers involved with your research? Do you get employees involved? Tell me how you do that. Tell the audience how you do that.
Yeah, so we get everybody involved. So some of it is formal research, where we're going out, particularly with testing different messaging. We've done a lot of that where we're really looking at either making a pivot or really trying to position ourselves. So we really want to test that to make sure that's resonating, right? Because with anything else, we can be the people saying it, but it's really got to resonate with the customer, and it's their perception of us, not what we want to put out there. So we really leverage that a lot in our messaging, and really kind of feeling what those pain points are so that we can tweak that as we go. So it's an ongoing thing. It really never stops too. It's not just like you do that research and you take it. It's an ongoing loop that you need to keep looking at and refining.
Good. Bjorn, this is right up your alley. What are some of the ways that the continuous onslaught of social media has changed branding in the way that Met is doing business right now?
Oof. I mean, I think the big thing that we've seen overall is just like the continued evolution of the consumer, and like whether it's like the way that they connect, the way that they connect to businesses. It's just incredible to see like the way that we kind of go about life is completely like overlapped into how we are all connecting socially, but that is like now overlapping into the ways that we, experience commerce. It's not just about like double clicking and double tapping and liking a photo now. It's literally gone into the ways that people are kind of filling out their day-to-day lives. So for us, I think it more than anything, it's put like a major importance on just ensuring that we're trying to ensure that folks have like as easy as possible ways to be able to build those connections, and to ensure that those connections aren't cluttering up their lives or detracting from what people want at the end of the day, which is just to be close to the people that they care about.
Right. Thank you. Christina, kind of a related question regarding the pandemic and consumers, but how has the consumer brand purchase changed in the last 2.5 years? And not only related to COVID, but with digital explosion, everything on your phone, customer journey, being a professional sports league, no different than, because we live and die by sports all over the place. How's that changed in the NHL, and what have you done?
Yeah, so one of the partners that I manage in Ticketmaster has been making a push into digital ticketing for years. There was always a lot of pushback. The younger fans were fine with it, but across the generations, it didn't always transcend. And it was kind of always a pain point, whether it was, talking about another partner of mine, Verizon, like the Wi-Fi network not working, or just their general, when you're a Beaver Stadium, you have no service. It was a constant pain point on site at events. So once the pandemic hit, it really escalated everything, right? There was no other choice other than digital tickets. And now we have, I think, like a 96% digital ticketing rate across the league amongst all of our clubs and all of our big events. And so it just became, it became natural instead of a pain point, from downloading the tickets in advance of the event, trying to avoid the network issues. And so everything is just at your fingertips and in your phone on game day. That was just something that really got escalated by the pandemic. And, of course, we saw ticket sales, or really no ticket sales at all during the pandemic. And then as we allowed fans back in the arena, we were, of course, a little worried that people were, tightening their belts on purchasing, but fans were just so excited to get back and see games live and see their favorite players and their favorite teams and get back to that we've seen a crazy increase in fan behavior and coming to games as well, which is positive.
Good, thank you. My next question will probably be closely watched by Professor Malloy and Copeland. They might want to grade you. And I'm going to ask a couple of different people and start with Angel. What's the difference between branding and marketing?
Good question. I would define that as branding being the positioning that a company is taking externally and internally. And that can be anything from taglines, the imagery that's being used in any sort of communication, the key benefits and differentiators that are being shared in any sort of communication. I think that kind of really sits squarely in the branding space. Marketing is really the vehicle that makes its way out to the consumer, to, if you're doing B2B marketing, to the different accounts that you're marketing to. So I'd say, again, marketing is really the vehicle, the different platforms, the different methods in which you're getting that messaging out, and branding really sits squarely on, what is the actual message you're conveying, the positioning, things of that nature.
And Max, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I think, man, you're putting me back in like a seat in the classroom with that question. But I think, branding is the adjective, right? I think branding is describing, what your company is. Are you a Manscaped that's, rugged and, raw and gritty, or are you an Apple that's like cool, sleek, etc., right? Like what's your persona out there in the marketplace. Whereas marketing is kind of, what Angel said, it's kind of, the driver, right? It's the kind of the what, right? How are we getting that messaging out there? What's our tactics? How are we getting eyeballs? All of that. I mean, I think in simplicity, branding is the adjective, marketing is the verb.
Okay. And Laura, from an institutional perspective, your point of view?
I know when we talk about branding, we talk about a personal brand, right? What we say is that your personal brand is what you want somebody to say about you when you leave the room after a meeting, right? You want them to say, that's Timmy, he's great, he's always got great ideas. It's what their perception is of you, of that company. So I think that's where, the brand really comes into play. And then I agree, the marketing is how do we get it out there? But it also intertwines with positioning, right? Your branding should be, it's kind of intertwined as well. It should be consistent with your positioning and where you want to go in the market as well.
Good, good. Peter, what makes a brand admirable?
Admirable. Okay. I thought you were going to ask me the previous question, so I was getting ready. But what makes a brand admirable? I think a few things. One, a brand that kind of is or knows what it is and knows who they want to be. Oftentimes you have brands who try to do too much, and if you do that, you don't know what the brand really stands for. And then second, what makes a brand admirable is, is the company and brand, do they do the right thing? Are they, advocates for their employees in various situations? Do they talk the talk, or do they walk the walk after talking the talk? Do they do the right thing for the environment? And do they do the right thing for their customers?
Okay. Bjorn, how's the metaverse change the way people think and act?
The way it helps people change and think and act. Well, I think more than anything, when we think about the metaverse, it's like the next evolution of the internet. So it's like, it's more immersive. It's not necessarily something that is 2D. The whole, kind of hope of it is that it's something that actually helps you feel like you're actually closer to the people that you're connecting with, or closer to the businesses that you're trying to connect with. So for us, in terms of like what we think it can potentially do, it's making the ways that we kind of go about like our day-to-day and like who we're connecting with and how we're engaging with people, how we're hopefully being able to do things that we never thought were possible or could never do. It's bringing those to life in a way that we're still kind of at the at the beginning stages of. But for me, and I think where a lot of our colleagues, it's more about just kind of bridging a lot of different possibilities that I think we only thought were possible in movies or in sci-fi and things like that.
Okay. My next question, I'm going to ask a couple people, but I'll start with Christina. And what's the process you follow for brand development, including your identity? What do you do?
So from my perspective, and of course I come from it more as a bridge between our partners and the league, but first I kind of think about who is the customer, who's the target audience, who do we want to reach, and then try to think about, all right, well, what do we stand for, or what do we want to stand for? And as Max, Angel, Laura, everyone was talking about, how do we want to convey that to that target audience and try to find what that connection point is. So a lot of, how I think about it from my perspective is, how do I take a brand NHL fans and find that perfect synergy that's really authentic to our fans and doesn't feel like we're just sticking a brand in their face and trying to make them become a customer when they don't want to be, and find that really authentic connection point. And I think what it really comes down to is listening to the customer. I know somebody said that earlier, but really listening to them, leaning on those consumer insights, and trying to figure out how you can convey that to them.
Okay, good. Angel, this is, I got this question from a few different students that they want to know. What's been your biggest challenge when it comes to branding for a company or a product or a service? What are some of the biggest challenges you face?
I'd say one of the biggest ones is really being distinct. There's a lot of noise from brands all over the world that are trying to break through. A lot of brands that are being disrupted by startups that have just come out of nowhere, and have really resonated, found something that really resonates with the consumer. So I'd say for me, I've seen a lot of challenges around how do you really create a distinct portrayal of, one, what resonates with the consumer, and then two, what's true to your identity as a brand. So I'd say that's definitely a key element, or a key challenge that I've seen in the branding space specifically. And then I think it goes without saying, but the rise of the influencer, the person in their garage or their bedroom or whatever, that now is a key mouthpiece for brands. I think really trying to find, in the past, having very, very narrow channels that you can select from and say, okay, well, I could just throw my ad here on ESPN and I'm good and call it a day. Now it's okay, I have this TikTok influencer or this person on Meta that I need to really, or Facebook, Instagram, all these different platforms that I now need to be considering, because they are one of the loudest voices that my consumer is now listening to. It may not be the ESPNs, it may be, the Try Guys or whomever that they're, really listening to day in and day out. And so I think it's finding the right vehicles to really get that message out. That's also been a big challenge from a branding standpoint, and also making it authentic, because, the influencers, and I'm sure, Max could speak to this as well, they're just not going to, say whatever you want them to say. They want to be true to their brand as well. So I'd say that's another challenge for sure.
Okay, thanks. Peter, how do you foresee brand management changing in the next 5 years?
Yeah, Timmy, I was ready to answer that previous question too.
You can answer that if you'd like.
All right, yeah, so I would say, and I'm not trying to be flip here, but like one of the biggest challenges is internal finance partners, and making sure that they're on board with, with your brand journey and what you want to be doing with, your brand, your marketing, and your product. Because, in the space that I work with on the airline, I found myself having to, defend to my finance partners, why we should be investing more money into dishware, or why we should be investing more money into, specific blankets and our partnerships behind that. And it leads to like some really interesting conversations, but once, if you don't put in the time with your finance partners, it could bite you at the end. So you got to make sure that you kind of bring them along the journey, making sure that they can tell your story on your behalf in the meetings that matter.
Okay, Laura, I'll ask you that question. How do you foresee brand management changing in the next 5 years?
Well, it actually kind of ties into what Peter just said, because while I was thinking about that, I was thinking about the value of branding versus some other things we do, like lead gen, that are very closely tied to revenue, right? And it's always having to show that and demonstrate that. And I think with the way technology is going, the ability that we have to track and get metrics more holistically throughout the entire customer journey, as we get better at doing that, I think we're going to be able to kind of tie that revenue directly back to the branding efforts, and that would be really exciting.
Right. Okay. Max, how important is it defining personas when you're building your brand? You've got many different folks that you're working with that are targeted to different folks. How important is that?
Yeah, I mean, it really goes back. I think Angel made a really good point before, right? It's like, where are we building trust, right? So I think in my world, it's really about what are the key categories for a talent, right? So, I mean, we can use the Carly example again, right? She's trustworthy in the fact that she's a professional athlete. So where are you going to listen to her most? Probably in areas that relate to fitness, health and wellness. She's somebody who's played up until the age of 40. So as far as nutrients, taking care of your body, that's something that's super important. And then I think on the flip side is like, in the influencer world, right, where it's not so much where you can be perceived as either being scripted or having a key area element. There's really interesting people out there that are kind of owning certain categories, whether it's being a voice for being a voice, within a specific demographic, or, owning a category. There's a guy named Vic Blends, who's like a professional barber, but also talks about lifestyle and culture and all of that, where you might trust him for anything grooming or kind of calm wellness, all of that. So I think it's really about owning your angle in that aspect.
Good. Christina, we talk a lot about building brands and learning about the competition, the competitive intelligence, the target audience, unique selling proposition. To do that, you got to get folks together, whether you call it an immersion or a workshop. What is that? Can you explain that to our students out there, what a branding workshop or an immersion workshop is? And if anybody else on the panel would like to answer that as well, coming from a different angle, I would like that. So Christina, we'll start with you.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I would say I feel like someone from a brand standpoint will have a different viewpoint than me, because mine always starts with my partners. So it's really trying to understand what's my partner's brand, what are their brand objectives, and maybe more so for me, like where do they want to go? We have a lot of partners who have really strong awareness with their NHL fans, but they want to push past that. They want to push into consideration, purchase intent. They want to move down the marketing brand funnel. So it's trying to listen to their objectives and listen to where their brand is going and who their target audience is, or what they have upcoming for the next season. And then getting together, putting our heads together internally and trying to figure out what business initiatives we have going on internally to reach that target demographic or help them get there, whether it's through, as Laura said, lead gen and database engagement, or if it's through on-site local activation, or it's through, national commercial campaigns, or maybe it's through, as we call SGL or more CSR type initiatives where they want to serve underserved communities in hockey, or help the sport grow in a different way. So ours just starts with our partners and then goes internally, and takes a lot of different business units to sit down and say, all right, how can we do this for our partners?
Right. Okay. Okay, the next question, I'm actually going to ask everybody to take maybe 15 or 30 seconds, or if you need a little bit longer, fine, but a lot of students have asked this question. It's moving off of marketing and branding per se, but this is my favorite question because the whole reason why we're doing this panel, no disrespect for the two professors here, but what's going on in the real world and applicability is why we're here. So I'm going to start with Bjorn. What advice can you give these students that they're not going to learn in class or in a textbook? So unfortunately, you're the first, and the other 5 people have some time to think about it, but we'll make up for it at the end.
No, that's perfectly fine. So what type of advice can they learn in the real world and not in a textbook, right, Timmy?
What advice can you give them?
Oh, what can I give them? I mean, I think more than anything, experience trumps any type of like education or anything that, I mean, don't get me wrong, that, Penn State is like phenomenal in terms of like the experience that it'll set you up for like long term. But being in the real world, being in, your proper kind of like in the trenches whenever campaign moments are going on, there's nothing like the experience that you get. It's proper boot camp. So knowing that there is kind of like a light at the end of the tunnel in terms of all the classes and all the studies that you're doing, and knowing that you'll have some real world applications that you can kind of glean from it is really, really exciting. And then I think more than anything too, I think, and this is very like, pretty straightforward, typical, the amount of folks that you will eventually end up probably like overlapping and working with down the road within your Penn State networks and in your systems, like literally in your classrooms right now. Make sure you're, staying in touch with folks, because I cannot tell you the amount of connections that I still, link up with all the time that stem from my days at in State College. So keep those folks close.
Okay, Peter, your turn to answer that.
Yeah, I'd say you'd want to build relationships at work across functions. Very rarely in my job can I, do something on my own. I rely on my finance partners, my procurement partners, my engineering teams. And each of these teams are incentivized by different things. So by building these relationships, understanding, the points of view that each person comes in with, what they're incentivized by, and then, making sure that you know them as a person, it goes a long way and kind of really helps you and your team achieve kind of what you need to.
Max?
Yeah, I think, Smeal, Penn State generally is going to set you up with the tools to success. But I think, to that point too, and I think probably a lot of people will agree on this, you pick up the nuances, you pick up the finesse kind of in that day-to-day business. You learn the lingo, communication, how you email people, how you hop on a call, how you want to be efficient of other people's time and not make things too long, right? So I think, Penn State and classes generally, it's going to give you the tools to kind of put you in the rooms and make you qualified. But once you're in the room, it's kind of on you to kind of pick up the nuances, own that finesse, build the relationships, and kind of it's on you to kind of explore that's out there. I think to everybody's point, you learn pretty quickly that you're going to be in the room with a lot of Penn State alumni. I even sent Christina like a one-off note from this call, but like I'm going to the NHL office tomorrow to bring clients. So like, funny enough, I think we're all interacting kind of one way or another, and it's just one large community.
Awesome. Angel, your turn.
All right. I would say do not underscore the importance of what you're doing extracurricularly, if that's even a word.
It is now.
Yeah. I think a lot of what I learned in being a part of different organizations at Penn State outside of the classroom, I think has really given me a lot of the tools that have allowed me to be able to build relationships when I'm out in the real world. I think learning to work with people of different personalities, different backgrounds, learning to work with people that are different majors and have different areas of expertise and different passions. I think that's something in pretty much every job I've been at, you're going to be in those rooms talking to people with and working alongside a lot of different people that you're going to have to figure out how to, be able to sell in a key initiative to your finance team, or talk to, the scientists or the engineers that developed, the latest mobile phone or the latest makeup and cosmetics, and be able to interpret what they're saying and then be able to come up with a really unique marketing or branding initiative. So I think a lot of what you'll learn outside the classroom and your extracurricular activities, working with different organizations or for different organizations, I think will really be a key success, and frankly, something you can really talk to when you're in an interview that I think will go a long way.
Thank you. Laura, what advice can you give these students they're not going to learn in class?
I would say, it's very easy to just get in your own little world, right? In marketing and kind of come up with these things, and you think you're so great. It's really, a lot of companies say they're customer centric, but they don't walk that walk. I think it's currently keeping that focus on the customer with whatever you're doing. And really getting out there. I mean, from a marketing perspective, from B2B, I'd be, getting out there, riding along with sales. I think, as Peter pointed out, getting to learn the other people in the organization and their context to the customer. So I think that's all very valuable, and just kind of looking at different perspectives and diversity in your thinking. And the other thing I would say is don't be afraid to challenge the status quo. When I have someone come in, I don't want them to just kind of do it the way it's been done for the last 50 years, right? I want someone to come with a new, fresh idea. And you can do that in a respectful way when you come in, but I think that really shows that you're a leader, and it shows that you have some fresh ideas to offer. So go for it.
Thank you. And Christina.
Mine will sound simple, but I think it builds on what Peter and Laura are especially saying. People want to work with people that they like and get along with, and who problem solve together, versus people who push back. So something that I try to live by is, anytime I have to say no, have no, but this is a way it could work, or this is what I'm thinking about. How can we figure this out together? You'll hit a lot of roadblocks that you don't expect. And especially, I mean, from a consumer perspective, you'll get a lot of no's or things that don't resonate that you don't expect. So just continuing to remember that you should be a problem solver and try to get to know people, like Peter said, on the inside. And that'll help you go a long way.
Thanks. Okay, I'm going to ask a question. Ask a few people. I'll start with Peter. Peter, what could a career path look like within a company or an ad agency or consulting firm? You're with a big company right now, so tell us about your historical trajectory, and what could a career path look like for these 350 students that are sitting out here?
Yeah, great question. I think there's so many different parts of marketing that you can go into. Me personally, I started off in pharmaceutical sales. Like I knew I wanted to do something in the marketing space. I felt that that was like a good kind of stepping stone to get there because I could see, the tools and the programs and resources that a marketing department put together, like how they, how they were implemented with customers directly in the field. From there, I worked at a PR and communications agency. Bjorn, I saw you worked at Edelman, New York too. I did as well. And there I worked on corporate communications as well as brand communications for a variety of pharmaceutical clients. And it was there where like I worked directly with the clients brand managers, and realized that, that was more of the direction that I wanted to go in. All of them had MBAs, so made the decision to go get my MBA from Penn State. And then coming out of it, pivoted into the automotive world. Like I said in my introduction, did brand marketing at Ford Motor Company, and then made the move to United Airlines. And even at United, I've looked at it from a variety of ways, from designing products for customers to being more upstream in a marketing research and insights role, kind of working broader across the enterprise, like what do customers really want and value from their travel experiences, and then kind of taking all these all these different experiences and now kind of leading a larger organization with more responsibility.
Yeah. Max, how would you answer that question?
Yeah, I mean, I think in my industry, I first started at a talent agency. If you've ever watched Entourage, I started off in, the notorious mailroom. And yeah, I mean, you work your way up, right? I think everything's about kind of taking the opportunity where you can, spending time with people, finding your mentors internally to the company. Not everything is going to be fun, right? Like giving out mail wasn't the best time in the world, but it was a good opportunity to get in front of people. I spent 6 months being the assistant to the real Ari Gold, Ari Emanuel. So, really getting face time. And I think the key point there that I'm trying to make is really putting your hands in the mix, right? Getting involved in things, saying yes, staying late, getting to know your colleagues, learning from the people above you and making those relationships. All of that will help expedite the entire process and get you more involved in things, which is ideally the goal.
Okay. And Angel, how would you answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I've had the unique experience of being able to also work agency side on the media agency side, which for me, when I came in, I first worked at an integrated agency that did both creating the ads as well as placing the ads. So that was a really good experience because I got a little bit of view to all the different sides of the ecosystem as far as where the creative is being developed and the messaging, and then how do we get that messaging out to the right person and target them effectively and do all that stuff. So that was a really good learning experience for me. I definitely came up through I really caught kind of the fire for like digital media specifically, especially as like mobile advertising was really starting to come to a head and how that really started to develop. And I think the ad agency side in the agency space really does give you the opportunity to get a flavor for a lot of different brands. So for me, I worked on Tylenol and USAA, and then had the opportunity to move to another agency and then work on Michelin, automotive accessories, and, worked on that for a bit, and then moved over to consumer product goods with Energizer and Playtex and Schick brands. And so you get the opportunity to understand a lot of different issues that brands have, a lot of different experiences. And then it gives you the tools to really then decide if you want to pivot and just really move on to the brand side, which I did have the opportunity to do with LG Electronics. And even then, it was kind of a pivot for me to broaden my horizon even beyond digital paid media, where then I was also working on, website content optimization, social media, content calendarization, working with finance on developing, purchase orders and things like that, that I really hadn't touched before. And so I think that's also, a key piece of advice is kind of be willing to make those pivots to learn on the job, and really be able to broaden your horizon, because I think that then has helped me, even where I'm at currently, to talk to brand marketing managers and say, hey, I've been in your shoes, developing content, developing creative. This is what's worked for me, and this is what I could see could work for you. It really helps you build those bridges. So definitely would recommend, trying different ends of the spectrum.
See, pivot's a key buzzword in 2022, right? There you go. So this question is for everybody because I think it's applicable, and I'm going to really pay attention because I really would like to learn from all of you. I'll start with you, right? How do you manage work-life balance? Laura.
Well, it's a lot easier now. I can tell you that. It's a lot easier now with all the remote opportunities, and it being able to have a hybrid model. We're in a hybrid schedule right now, so we're in the office part-time and from home part of the time. So I find that that's really, really improved it. I think when I'm at work and I'm doing my work, I'm 110% with that. And when I am with family and I'm doing things with friends and family, I'm 110% with that. And I really try very hard not to let those two areas cross.
Right.
I think it's just being really present, because when you're trying to do too many things, and I've been there too, where you're trying to just juggle back and forth between the two, you're not present for either. And then it just becomes a lose-lose situation. So.
Christina?
Yeah, I think I've been really fortunate in that I have had a lot of bosses in leadership who are strong advocates for work-life balance. So definitely echo what Laura said, just be very present in what you do at work and what you do at home. I think I commute an hour and 40 minutes one way, mostly on the train, but from Connecticut to the city. So I have a long beginning and end of my day, and I'm very clear to my leadership in that I'll be working on the train. If you need me, I'm available, but I'm not going to stay in the office all day just to be there, when now we can work from anywhere. And we've proven that over that last, 2.5 years or so. So just being very, I think, clear in the expectations and what you want to get out of the job. You might be a person who loves to work in the office, and that's great too. Just being clear in your expectations and what you need from your leadership too.
Thank you. Angel?
Yeah, I'd say for me, it's different than I imagine a lot of our audience at this point. I mean, I have a wife and 2 daughters, and for me, that's definitely among the highest priorities that I have. So for me, being there for them, being flexible in that regard has definitely been that's also something they're not going to teach you. I don't think at Penn State. That's something you'll learn on the job, where you'll learn how to prioritize appropriately, to understand that, you may have a little bit of a work family, and some friends and things like that, but your family is going to be your family in many cases. So for me, it's been important over the years to learn to prioritize, also to learn to delegate as you start to move up and have people that you can lean on and trust and build a team. I think that's definitely been important for me, to really trust their expertise and know that I don't have to be on every single email or catch up on every single email. And that's been something I've learned, frankly, in the last year and a half, as I've really started to manage a team in a bigger way. So I'd say that's something to keep an eye to. But coming out of the gate, I think it's something great if you can learn early on how to, balance work life, to really lean in and go, 1,000% when you're there, when you need to stay late, to have those boundaries in place, but then also be able to set up time for yourself. I know mental health, wellness, that's really started to come to a head as well. And it's crucial, because if you can't, take care of what's going on inside, then you're really not going to be able to give 100% to what you need to do. And it shows. So I'd say for me, that's been a key learning.
Okay. Max?
Yeah, I think, for me, I think the question is a little bit twofold, right? It's like, one, when you're first starting out in those first jobs, 1, 2, 3 years out of college, you're going to get pummeled with work, right? Everything's going to kind of fall into your lap. And I think it's something transparently I struggled with, right? Like, my days were working until 11, 12 o'clock at night in the office, weekends, nonstop, until finally somebody told me, like, ignore the list and learn to prioritize. What needs to happen today? What can happen tomorrow? What can be held for a week? And once I think you're able to own that and strategize kind of your workload, it helps you breathe quite a lot bigger, quite a lot longer. The flip side of it is, I work in a business where it's 24/7. I have clients doing stuff all around the world, like I'm sure most of us do. So, weekends, I am working weekends, but again, it takes time to kind of own your role. It's okay to say to I can't put out of office on when I have clients that are doing a shoot the next day, right? But you can learn to be able to say, got it, got your note, I'll get back to you on Monday, right? Like if it doesn't need to be answered now, if it's not immediate, it's okay to say to somebody, got your note, I saw it, I recognize it, and I'll get back to you on Monday, when I'm back online, right?
Thanks. Bjorn?
Yeah, I'll echo a lot of what's already been said, but I think it's just very, very critical that you learn to be assertive and be intentional about boundaries that you have. A lot of times you have to balance that with kind of the day-to-day rhythms of your job. And I know if I'm, if we have a huge campaign that's launched and, it's Super Bowl time, if a reporter calls me and it's 8:00 at night and they're on deadline, I kind of understand that those are just the things that you have to roll with and deal with. So I find that as long as I keep perspective that, these things like ebb and flow, and that, at the end of the day, I've got a team and, I'm a part of a team that is collectively like all in and helping each and every one of us and being in it together. I think you're typically okay. But it's a little, I understand when you're a bit more junior, you're a little more hesitant to kind of set those boundaries and be assertive with those, but it's really, really good modeling and good practicing to do that at an early age. So by all means, definitely do it.
And Peter, round up the last answer to the last question before the breakout room. So it's all yours.
Thanks. Candidly, I struggle with this one myself, so it's good hearing the advice from my fellow panelists. It depends on what your kind of job is structured like, whether it's a lot in the office, a lot of traveling for work. Even when you're traveling, what does that look like? Can you take time away? What I found during the pandemic, our staffing at an airline has been reduced dramatically. So every day or maybe often, I find myself asking, is what I'm working on, is it generating revenue? Is it pivotal to the business? Is it something that's bringing value to the company? And that's kind of the lens that we have to look through and prioritize. I would tell you, I try to do a good job with work-life balance. I think my wife would argue the opposite, but it's kind of carving out time for family to be fully present, kind of taking that time away and taking the time you need, whether that's on a weekend or if you're working remotely, just a few minutes, walk outside during the day can do wonders as well.
I love all your answers. And this is one thing that, I'm going to answer my own question. And that is I work on it every day. And it's probably the hardest thing for me is to manage work and manage life and bridge the two together. It's, it's tricky and it's hard. So, some of us all go through that, but I appreciate all your answers. You guys, all of you were terrific. It was a pleasure. I think we're a little bit over. I think two or 3 minutes over. Julia, how we doing? Jen, how we doing?
Awesome. This was amazing. I'm just going to close things out because I know it's between me and the breakout rooms and everybody wants to chat with you, I am sure. Timmy, 7 years. I have to say thank you so much for all the work you put into this. Would not happen without you, honestly. Our panelists were amazing. I took a ton of notes on the side here. I can't wait to debrief with students who I know are here as well. So thank you. Thank you to our panelists and Meg and our department. I do have to say a special shout out to Julia Lowen. She has worked so hard on this, meeting every single speaker ahead of time, getting all our questions together. She's gone above and beyond. So I have to say thank you so much to Julia. And also she was supported by the Prime Executive Board and AdPR Executive Board as well. We thank you too. I know that Lauren Gemp and Megan Straley did a lot of alumni outreach. Helena Haynes, Bree Panchari, and Rachel Clark did a lot of the PR, which we are very thankful for. Now, Haley and Maria Lisa also supported us, so thank you so much. Also want to thank the audience because I was scrolling the list. We have a lot of alumni, a lot of faculty in addition to students. We so appreciate your support. I'll let Julia take over and let you know about the breakout rooms.
Yes, I wanted to thank all of the panelists for joining us today and for sharing all of your great insights. And then I would also like to thank the audience for joining us this evening. Now, I have provided the breakout rooms in a link that is in the question and answer session if you'd like to access it through there. And I've also provided the links in the email that I sent earlier today. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope everyone has a great night, and let me know if you have any questions. I'll stay on the Zoom call if you have any for the question and answer section. And then as for the panelists, I just sent you guys an email that has a link to each of your personal breakout rooms. So whenever you're ready, you could hop off and join those. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
Wonderful,
you.
thank you.
Thanks.
Julia, you still there?
Yes, I am.